you've got the other part of you, the other part of your mind that is clinging to what is the known, what is familiar to you, right? And that's what is creating the internal conflict. You know, when you're trying to step away from any habit, especially something that involves a drug like alcohol, you're always going to come up with a lot of natural resistance and a lot of internal resistance to what you're trying to do. I think about the alcohol habit as it's the default thinking, it's the default behavior, and the more areas that behavior covers, the deeper it's going to be. The longer you've been doing this, the more you've been feeding that habit, the more deeper that reinforcement is going to have gone, right? So the more reinforced the default behavior has become. Then when you want to change, you're always going to be faced with a certain amount of ambiguity and conflict, right? It's just an inevitable part of the journey. And the part of you that wants to change, that is usually driven by a kind of a recognition that the change is going to lead you to better outcomes in life, right? Whether that's improved health, you've got greater satisfaction in the things that you're doing, or greater satisfaction in your job, or greater satisfaction in your relationships, achievements of things, getting to personal goals, all that kind of stuff. However, you've got the other part of you, the other part of your mind that is clinging to what is the known, what is familiar to you, right? And that's what is creating the internal conflict. You know, that all that familiar and all that known that's your comfort zone. That's the area where you're most comfortable. That's when the shit hits the fan. This is where you go. This is where you hide away, right? It's your escape. Instead of it being an escape hatch, it's a trap. You know, it traps you in there. It gets tighter and tighter and tighter. The more you use this one drug for, the more you're isolating other parts of your life. But it's this second part, that familiarity and that doggedness of the actual habit. That's the part that we call the drinker's brain. That's, the comfort zone. It's the path of least resistance. It's the parts of your life that you have to. You're working at moving away from them because you're working on other things, but you're really the one thing that you're doing that will get rid of the old drinker's brain is time in the right direction and not feeding the habit, right? But the thing is that you have to understand that you're going to carry both of these desires, because going back into that comfort zone is still a desire that you have, right? It's still there. It's still something that is pulling you in one direction. So we talk about motivations, and motivations can be a double-edged sword. So motivations can be pulling you in one direction, but they can also be pulling you in another direction. And this is what we're talking about in terms of desires, so that you've got a desire that's pulling you one way and a desire that's pulling you in another way. And you have to accept that both of these desires are going to be part of your pathway, at least in the short term. There's going to be internal conflict because of the desires that you have. These twin desires are competing with each other. But think about it from the perspective of the desire that you feed is the desire that's going to win the conflict. All right? Take care. habitsv2.com. Bye now.